What's up, weirdos? I'm Chris Weir, and this is the Chris Weir Experience. And today on Chris Weir Answers, I answer, how does a website work? Okay, so the reason that I bring up how does a website work is because I run into constantly, and probably more as of late than ever before, where business owners don't fully understand what it is that they're getting with their website or how in the world the website actually works. I think the problem kind of happened over the past decade or so, where we had all these website companies that were nothing but website companies that came in and would charge one flat monthly fee to put your website online. And business owners, not knowing any different, obviously not being experts in websites, they just paid the monthly fee and they had a website, and that was that. Some of these services even got kind of fancy and started providing you with content for your website. You in the medical field, especially, you guys know, they would just provide you generic content for your website. Well, what you ended up realizing is, oh goodness, your site has the exact same content as literally hundreds of other sites all across the country. And that's obviously not going to be good for SEO. And in the days now where algorithms are changing with search engines, having the same content as other websites is not helpful for your SEO. You need to have your own specialized content. So what we're seeing are a lot of these businesses are pulling away from the old relationships that they had with a single website company and coming to more like an ad agency like 2 Second Media to manage the entire website for them. And they're getting a little bit surprised by all the different things that they have to get for their website. So the purpose in today's Chris Weir Answers is not to make you an expert on websites. That takes years. But I at least want to give you enough familiarization so that you know whenever you're switching over and you're going into where you now own your website. And by the way, let me throw this in there, because this is another frustrating thing that's happening during these transitions, is a lot of the businesses are realizing that when they do want to make that transition out of that other company and they want to bring in like an agency to do it, they begin to realize, oh crap, I don't even own my URL. I don't even own my web address. Because it was all owned by that company. So they're running into all of these challenges and these issues with switching over their website. And it's all because they don't fully understand the various pieces that make up a website on the back end. So that's what I'm hoping to clarify today. So let's jump in here. So the first thing that you have to think about is let's create an analogy here so it kind of helps. I'm a very visual person, so when I can come up with analogies like this, it usually helps me understand these things. So think about the internet being like a public library, right? If you're 35, 36, 37 or older, we all remember card catalogs in a library, the Dewey Decimal System, right? We remember all of that. Anybody younger than that, you guys probably have no clue what I'm talking about, But basically, that whole concept was, look, you go into a public library and there are thousands upon thousands of books that are available for you to take home, right? Well, you needed a way to be able to effectively and efficiently find each book and to make sure that it was there and it was available. And if you took it home, how do we record that you took it home? So they came up with the Dewey Decimal System and the card catalog so that we knew exactly where books were. Well, when you think about the public library and associate that to websites, right? So think of the internet as the public library with all of these websites that are available, all on the shelves, hundreds of millions of websites that are available. Well, in order for us to be able, when we come in and we want to look at a particular website, right, and we go to the internet and we say, we want this website, we have to be able to get to that website very easily. In other words, the librarian has to take us straight to that website very efficiently, very quickly. And the way that we do that is through what's called a URL. That's your web address. And it's literally what it means. It's the address on the web, just like your home address. It tells us exactly how to get to your specific website. So that URL is your address for your website. You have to pay for that URL. This is 2secondmedia.com. It's the chrisweirexperience.com. It's your .com. It's your web address, right? And that tells everybody where to go. When they come in there, it tells them exactly how to get to your website. So that's number one. You have to have your URL. Never, ever, ever, ever allow a company to buy your URL for you. You always should own your URL. Now, you can obviously have them assist you in the purchase because you might not know where to go to actually buy it, but it needs to be on your credit card and it needs to be in your account. I am a GoDaddy user. I am also a reseller for GoDaddy. Every single client that comes in, we set up a GoDaddy account for them. It's their credit card. They pay directly, no markups, no nothing. They own the URL. If you don't own your URL and you're abccompany.com, as soon as you leave that company that owns that URL or that company goes out of business or you have some kind of falling out or something like that, they can jack up the price of that URL exponentially. It is the most frustrating side of digital commerce I think I see today because there's really no regulations on it. I mean, literally, I could go buy abccompany.com, and if that's your company and you want that from me, I could charge you $10,000 for that URL. When if you were to buy it on your own, it's probably $9 a year. I mean, so it's so incredibly important that you purchase your own URL and you get that in your account. Write that down. Don't forget that piece of it. So whoever it is that you're coordinating with to build your website, you want to own the URL. Now, that URL, again, is the address. That's how we get there. But once we get to your address, we get to the location of your website online, there's got to be a place there that holds all of the files for your website, pictures, text, all the back-end coding, all the plugins, all of that stuff that makes up your website, all the pages of your website that people view when they actually go see your website. They've got to live somewhere. They all take up space. They all have digital size and they take up digital space. So you have to pay for that space. That's called your hosting account. All right. So first and foremost, you have your URL. Then you have your hosting account to host and hold all of the files, right? You're basically renting that space there, right? I mean, that's in essence what you're doing because you have to pay for that every single year. You never own it outright per se, but you are basically renting that space. So they're hosting your files in that specific account. The third piece of that is then we need to be able to edit all of those files that are there. So if you're wanting to edit a page or you're wanting to add a new page or you want to switch out an image or whatever, you want to move an image to the left, whatever it is that you want to do, you've got to be able to edit all of those files that are being hosted at your URL. So in order for us to do that, we need a software that can read all of those files. That software is your website management. Now, in most cases today, and what I generally recommend for 99.9% of all businesses, is using what's called a CMS. This is a content management system. This is like a WordPress for a regular website or, for instance, a Shopify for an e-commerce site. It is a clean back end that you're able to very easily edit all the stuff. If you can work in Microsoft Word, you can pretty much work in the CMSs today. So that's why I generally recommend those, because if you want to make easy, simple edits to your website, why in the world do you want to have to pay a company to go and make these expensive edits if you can just edit them yourself, right? So that's why I generally recommend CMS systems for small businesses. So WordPress, e-commerce, something like that. Now, WordPress, you actually don't have to pay for. WordPress itself is free. Shopify comes with a little bit of an expense. It's not that expensive, but it comes with a little bit of an expense for you to be able to use their software. But again, you need that CMS to be able to read all those files. So just recap real quick. We have the URL. You have to pay for the URL. We have the hosting account. You got to pay for the hosting account. And then thirdly, we have the CMS. If you use WordPress, you don't have to pay for that. If you use Shopify, there's a little bit of a charge. And there's plenty more. I like WordPress and Shopify, so I mentioned those, but there's literally probably 100 more that are out there. So you have those three pieces right there. Now there's sub-elements to each of these pieces, right? So let's look at, for instance, the URL. If you want an email account that has your URL at the right behind the @ so for instance, Chris at 2secondmedia.com, if you want that professional level email, which I highly recommend that everybody does, not only for branding but for professionalism, then you need to get that email account. Again, through somebody like GoDaddy. I'm a reseller through GoDaddy. It's very, very easy to add that on. When you purchase your URL, you add on that email plan. Guys, we're literally talking $3, $4 a month. I mean, it's very, very little money to be able to get a good email system for you to be able to use, right? Now look at the hosting account. Let's move down to that. An additional expense that you might have under hosting is SSL encryption. Everybody needs a secure website these days. You don't need me to sit here and explain to you why that is so important. As a matter of fact, many plugins that won't even work on your website unless you have SSL. You can't do e-commerce without SSL. So SSL is something that's going to cost you $100, $150 a year, something to that effect. But it's something that you have to invest in. You've got to put this on your website these days. Google's algorithm is looking for SSL. They want to see secure websites for really, really good reasons too. So it's not wasted money by any stretch of the imagination. You want to encrypt your site so that it's secure, so it can't be hacked as easily, and you don't get your data stolen and all that kind of good stuff, or anybody else's data stolen for that matter. So you want to protect all of that. So the SSL is a piece. Also, if you have a very large e-commerce site where you have thousands and thousands and thousands of products that are available, you might need extra storage space, like the storage space that you get from your hosting account. There's a limit on how much you can actually store. So you may have to actually increase the size of your storage space, minimal. If you have a really, really popular website that just takes up a lot of bandwidth, a lot of people are coming onto the site every single day, you might have to up your bandwidth requirements a little bit. But again, those are really nominal charges, but they are additional charges that you need to be prepared to potentially have. And then last but not least, on the CMS, whether you use a WordPress or you use a Shopify, many times there are additional features and functions that you want to be able to add to your website. Those are called plugins. And what we do is we purchase a plugin. Some of them are monthly fees, some of them are one-time fees, but you buy the plugin, and that plugin creates that additional functionality. So if you want a special kind of form on your website for people to fill out, now there's usually generic forms that come with the website, but if you want a special type of form, or you want a special type of layout or a map display, or you want to connect it to certain things, there are these various plugins. Now, most plugins are actually free. You don't have to pay for most plugins, but there are some that go, that go to a little bit of an expense every single month. Inside the CMS as well, you have to buy a theme. So the theme is kind of like your template for layout and color scheme. Most of it you can edit as far as colors are concerned. Layout is generally pretty set in stone. You can't really do much with the layout, but you purchase the theme, and that allows you to edit everything much quicker, and it gives this uniform look across all your different pages. Also, many themes are, and you should only buy themes that are responsive design, which means that they will automatically adjust for mobile. So many people are doing websites on mobile these days. You have to have a website that's suited specifically for mobile devices. So you want one that is a responsive design. So those are some additional expenses that you might have under the CMS. But the three main things, you've got your URL, again, you've got your hosting account, and you've got your CMS software, the content management software. Those are the three elements that actually make up your website. It's not just one payment every single month like you have been doing. So whenever you're doing that switch, don't get too surprised. This is kind of the stuff that you're going to face. It's not overwhelmingly expensive. Don't get afraid. It's these having to do these things is not a reason to not switch your website. Okay, that's very, very important. If your website is old and outdated and you can't get it updated and you need to update it to a newer version, you need to do that. You know, your company can help set up your account for you. Again, if you do GoDaddy, every bit of this can be purchased through GoDaddy. So it's one account. It's not like you have to have accounts on all these different companies and all this kind of stuff. It can be very, very easy for you to manage. But it is something that you really, really need to be aware of. And that's just so you don't get surprised. I really hope this helped. I hope it's good information. If it was, be sure you share it with somebody, like, comment, and subscribe to all my channels. And I'll see you on the next Chris Weir Answers. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.